just wanted to recall and remind you of where this project originates, where this project comes from conceptually. My idea was that, my understanding, my assumption is that EU foreign security policy, which is a collective undertaking because it involves a number of actors, member states, institutions moving across different policy areas. It is something that needs to become more joined up, more coordinated, more cohesive. But at the same time, we have been experiencing in these last years an external and internal environment context which has become increasingly constraining, so to speak, which has put which has put a number of constraints on the capacity of the member states and the EU institutions to forge common positions and to act upon those common positions. These contextual factors, I think we can, oversimplifying a bit, reduce to three. One is the return of great power politics, or the fact that the world is increasingly multipolar and that the various poles are in competition with one another more than they cooperate with one another. A second factor, which has been going on for years, for over a decade right now, concerns the fact that regions, especially regions just across the EU external borders, are increasingly fragmented. State authorities are weak at times, or they are contested. External players get into other states, and that creates further confusion, further instability, further insecurity. And that obviously creates a problem of complexity, not just of the reality, but of the response to that to that crisis reality. And the third and very much related contextual factor, I think it is important to highlight when defining the constraints or the constraining factor blocking or hampering EU foreign security policy, is the fact that intra-EU divisions, which of course are just a matter of reality, something that is natural to the EU to have however widened, and at times they have taken the form of outright contestation, not just of an EU action or an EU position, but of the EU itself, and this creates further complications. And these three factors, multipolar competition, regional fragmentation, and intra-EU contestation, they do not exist in silos. They are trends that very much interplay with one another, and this interplay at times is really hard for the EU member states and institutions to get around of.
I think this project comes into a very important moment for the European Union. There is a consensus among EU officials that the world is evolving fast and the EU cannot keep the pace. Since the publication of the global strategy in 2016, there has been an increasing contestation at the global level, with great powers or emerging or new powers contesting liberal values or EU norm or EU endorsed norms. And there is also, as you suggested, an internal contestation within the EU. Some member states or actors within member states are pointing towards populist or right-wing views, and that damages the EU as a coherent and expansive foreign policy actor. In that sense, JOIN is a project that puts together these external and internal factors to provide some policy recommendations and to advance on new concepts and tools to think about these global trends.
Yes, indeed. At least that's the plan. We have a lot of ground to cover, But that's exactly the direction we want to go into. We want to get to a position in which we are able to say something meaningful about how the EU, which we understand as a collective actor, which after all is just a reflection of reality, may create greater synergies between the objectives of the member states and the objectives commonly set at EU level, integrate better the various policy tools that the member states and the EU as such have in a more coherent framework, what is called in EU jargon an integrated approach, especially to situations of crisis or conflict, but also an ability of the member states and the EU institutions to act more in unison when it comes to interacting, to relating to external players, be them great powers or regional states or even subnational local actors, and of course international institutions too. So this is the general framework of our project, how to make EU foreign policy, or if you like, European foreign policies, more joined up. I mean, I have mentioned before the intra-EU contestation, regional fragmentation, and multipolar competition as constraining factors, as factors that make the development of an EU foreign security policy, or a more joined-up foreign security policy, more difficult. But you may see in at least one of these factors also a spur, something that pushes the EU to do more as a foreign and security policy actor, and that's multipolar competition. Because multipolar competition involves that states are increasingly resorting to power politics instruments, and that's not just something related to the use of military force, but also, more broadly speaking, to the use of coercive measures. We have seen that even with the United States under Trump using coercive economic measures against the European allies, tariffs to start, to begin with, and then even extraterritorial sanctions. And then of course we have Russia and China, which resort to actions and practices that tend to create pressure on the EU, to divide the EU, and so the EU, many in the EU, including at the level of leaders, have increasingly felt a need for making the EU more capable of protecting itself from external pressure, and therefore to make the EU really one of the poles around which this multipolar international reality revolves.
The other factor constraining the EU foreign policy, regional fragmentation, is also increasingly important, and particularly the regions surrounding the European Union have become more unstable in the recent years. Starting from the Balkans, which is not the neighborhood but the closest allies, with the prospects of integrating the Western Balkans states into the European Union. The Kosovo and Serbian dialogue is not really functioning. It's not really progressing as promised, or as some European officials would like it to be. Serbia and other Western Balkan states are looking into Russia sometimes, and they are not as open to what the EU was suggesting as they were, say, Croatia or Slovenia in the 2000s. So that's causing a problem for the EU. But also in the south, Syria and Libya, they continue as open conflicts, difficult to manage for the EU. And in the eastern neighborhood, with Russia behind the Ukraine conflict, with Belarus producing hybrid tactics against the EU, there is always I wouldn't say it's in trouble, but the regions are increasingly unstable, and this is particularly a big concern for EU foreign policy. It's a constraining factor for the EU to manage conflicts or crises in the neighborhood.
It is indeed, and not least because especially this regional fragmentation factor tends to insert itself into EU politics or internal politics of member states, and that reverberates negatively or tends to reverberate negatively on the capacity, on the EU foreign and security policy making capacity. And there is no doubt that the external action is an element of exacerbation, of exasperation, of intra-EU divisions. But intra-EU divisions are ultimately something endogenous, in my opinion. So they are not created by external factors; they are created by internal actors who have certain demands or certain expectations. Some of these expectations are legitimate, and certain expectations, especially when it comes to taking back control, to borrow the phrase from the pro-Brexit referendum campaign, is quite a massively appealing slogan. Not so much a reality, perhaps, but it's certainly something that resonates with the general public. So, one of the things we are also set to do is to survey public opinion to see whether there are ways to reconcile the need to protect, which is the citizens' lives and economic status and borders, which is something that those who tend to contest the EU are very sensitive to, with the idea that a more strategically autonomous European Union is actually part of the solution to their part of the solution that can actually meet their concerns rather than part of the problem they believe they are experiencing. I'm saying this because at the end of the day, if the EU is more capable, if the member states turn the EU into an instrument which is more capable of protecting itself from external pressure, those who will benefit ultimately will or should be European citizens, including those citizens of those countries in which the EU is more contested. So it is quite an effort. We are not going to do anything political, but at least we are going to see whether there is, whether analytically speaking, there is actually a potential room for reconciling, combining this discourse about national sovereignty and the discourse about European autonomy.